future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
And you're laughing too, aren't you? Because you believe here, don't you? Oh my, where's my applause? Come on. Thank you. Jeez. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Shut Up. And I'm laughing as they're telling everybody I'm just a character. And I guess it's true, right,
yeah,
Linda?
It's very true.
No matter where I go and what it is I do, this is the reputation I get. I'm a character, but I guess it's a good thing. It keeps life interesting and it keeps it fun. And
who wants to be boring?
No, God knows I'm not boring.
No.
I don't even mean it. I just step into shit and then stuff happens.
I'm always your sidekick too. Do you ever notice that? For 20 years.
Everybody's my sidekick.
Even your friend over here.
It's just, I know I brought a friend, my dear friend Hong, beautiful Hong. I don't even know if we have a shot on her, but maybe later on we'll figure that out.
But then your real sidekick is
my
right
real
next to me.
sidekick, and he does usually what I tell him to do, is my husband John. He also has a radio show, the John and Ken Show. Sometimes when I talk about political stuff, he'll come on. We do not necessarily agree, but it's always sort of fun to banter with him. And this is my show, so you got to do what I say.
Well, you just tell me when I can talk.
Woo,
I usually do.
So
He's used to it.
There we go. And we're just going to get right to our guest, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I cannot get enough of what's going on. I can't, right? Linda and I were on a walk. I just can't get enough of what's going on with this particular election. I love watching everyone involved. And this time we actually thought it'd be really interesting to have someone on from the National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials. That is a mouthful. And we have with us, she's head of the DC office. She's got quite a job. This is Laura Maristani. Oh God, did I do it right?
That was good.
I did it.
Thank you for the
Oh
invitation.
my gosh, you know, we're compiling a blooper tape of all the times that I screw up everybody's names. So
That one you did well.
I did.
Yeah.
That's because she helped me. She's pretty cool. Thanks for being on with us.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. So, Lyndon, you have anything you
Yeah.
want to ask her first?
She puts
John?
me in a hot seat.
What?
Well,
Anybody? I have a lot that I'd like to
we
ask.
have the
well, then
debate
why don't you
coming.
go start with what's on your mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, obviously, you're out of D.C. You must be watching this election really closely, what's going on both sides. What's your take on what's happening as head of, sort of the Latino community? I don't know if you're speaking for them or what, but what is your take on what's happening? Let's talk first about the Republicans. What's going on over there with the debate happening out here in California next week? Everybody's watching closely.
Well, I mean, we are absolutely, the Latino community is absolutely watching closely. We're a little bit disappointed, I would say, just because at the end of the day, it's going to come down to issues that are key to Latinos. And that's not only immigration reform. I mean, we're talking about education, the economy, healthcare. These are key issues. And unfortunately, in the media, we're not hearing any of the candidates really talking about these things.
And that goes
So
for all sides.
need to-
Wouldn't you say that's all
Sorry?
sides? That's all sides, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, all sides. I mean, it's going to come down by 2016. We expect for there to be around 28.2 million Latinos that would be eligible to vote. And so, it's going to be critical for our community to be as informed as possible as they go out to the polls in 2016.
All right, but go ahead.
I just want to ask you a question. Is it your job to inform the Latino community? What is it that you do exactly, your organization?
Sure. Well, we do several things. The one that people know us the most for is our constituency of Latino elected officials across the nation. But we do a lot of work on getting out the vote as well. So that's a key civic engagement initiative that we carry out. And we actually have a hotline that answers questions to the Latino community on election-related issues, but more not so much politically related, but generally, like where can they register to vote? Are they eligible to vote? Such information. We also have a voter protection hotline that activates during the day of elections, and we help Latinos throughout that hotline as well, so they can, navigate the election process.
So do you get the campaign chairmen, do they reach out to you to get information and to share all the time, probably, is what you're working with? You probably have the inside knowledge of some things that we might see in the debate coming up.
Well, not so much inside knowledge, we wish, right? We serve more as a platform for them to come and talk to Latinos and Latino elected officials about what their stances are on the different issues, so that then our elected officials can obviously transmit that information, and also for the Latino electorate to be informed on where those candidates stand on those different issues.
The turnout for Latino voters tends to be lower than African-American voters and white voters. How are you going to get more people out? How are you really going to, those eligible voters, how are you going to get them out there to vote? That's the tough part.
Sure.
How do you do it?
Well, I mean, a lot of it, sorry, go ahead.
How do you do it? I mean, you go door to door. I don't know. You go to the schools. What do you do? How do you do that? That's a tough job.
Yeah, it is. Well, we have different strategies. At Naleo, we focus specifically on, we call the Great Unengaged. So we have an ongoing project and trying to figure out how to get out the vote in those communities that are eligible to vote but haven't voted or haven't registered to vote. So in between election years, we're out there trying to get people to register to vote, providing as much information as possible. Our hotline also assists with that, because a lot of that low voter turnout, ends up being that voters don't have enough information about the process. So we try to provide as much as we can.
I did a story once where a lot of times, groups like yourselves, they'll actually go to the schools. They'll target the kids. So the kids will then go home and talk to their parents. I mean, do you do that too?
Well, we try to target it at every level. Of course, schools are key, and not only Naleo, but a lot of the partners that we work with are obviously out there trying to register, students as they become eligible to vote when they're 18, and talking at the schools. That's a big part of it. But we focus primarily on coming up with specific strategies for those difficult to get voters, and then through our hotline, providing information to the community.
What are some of the misconceptions you would say are out there about Latino voters?
I think the biggest one is that people think that immigration is the number one and only issue that we're focusing on, and it's not. Our voters are as much as any other voter concerned about issues on education, healthcare, the economy. And so as we're going into the elections, those are the issues we want to be hearing the candidates speak about. What are their positions? What are they going to do to help our kids, succeed and get an education of excellence, for example? And how are we going to lower unemployment rates in the Latino community? And how are we going to get more jobs and better jobs for our community? Accessible healthcare. That's what the Latino community wants to be listening as we go into the 2016 election.
Have you heard anything that resonates at all to you or people in the community? I haven't.
We haven't.
Not
much.
But it's still the beginning, right? I mean,
I'm so tired of their platitudes. I mean, come on.
I know John's ready to say something.
I know. John's just jumping. Let him talk. I almost asked him, you got to stay back a little bit, because he has so many opinions. No, he's been very good.
He does listen to you.
No, but he has a lot of opinions. But I do too on this stuff. I haven't heard one thing that would address much in the Latino community. I really haven't. And I guess that's my question to you. Have you? I know they just started, but still.
But Bush is talking about it.
Okay.
A little bit. Right, John?
Huh? Yeah, he is.
All right, you can come in now.
All right, I have a question, and it ties in immigration with jobs. If a candidate started connecting illegal immigration to the suppression of jobs, the suppression of wages for the working class, how do you think that would play? In other words, one of the reasons there are not enough jobs, and one of the reasons that the jobs pay so little, is there's an oversupply of workers. One of the reasons in these communities is there are a lot of illegal immigrant workers who are willing to work cheap, and they undercut a lot of the legal immigrants. If a candidate started campaigning on that, how do you think that would be received?
I mean, the subject, I don't know specifically how it would be received in terms of this, the specific issue that you're talking about. But I will tell you that, yes, immigration continues to be one of the main issues that the Latino community is the Latino electorate is paying attention to. So they're going to be paying very close attention to what the potential candidates are saying on different issues related to immigration reform.
Right, but often the debate about immigration is, are we being compassionate enough in letting people in, or are we being mean in trying to keep people out?
That's a good point.
And there's a stereotype out there that all Hispanic voters approve of illegal immigration. And what I'm wondering is, because what I've read is there's an increasing awareness among some Hispanic voters that, wait a second, too much immigration hurts our ability to make a living because you have too many people fighting for too few jobs, and it drives down wages. And that seems like a debate worth having.
Well, I don't know if I'm the right person to answer that question. In terms of what we know and what we've told, immigration remains a deeply, deeply personal issue for Latino voters. I mean, 58% of people in one of the polls that we worked on indicated that they know a family member, a friend, a coworker, or someone in their lives who is undocumented. So yeah, the rhetoric and what is being said around it and the many aspects of the broken immigration system are going to be closely watched by the electorate.
What is your stance? What is your stance on it? I think it is a very complicated issue.
Right,
I really
think so
do.
Too. It's not black and white.
I understand both sides of these issues. I really do. It's an important issue, and you do have to dance delicately around it. You just do. I believe that, because otherwise sometimes, and it is, just building a wall that's 75 feet tall, to me, in my opinion, seems wrong. It just seems wrong. There has to be a better way that we allow immigration or let immigrants come in.
It has to be an orderly way.
Yeah. It has to, right. Well, that hasn't happened.
Right.
So,
otherwise, if you have too many people chasing too few jobs, you end up with a lot of poverty.
Right, and I agree with
that.
that.
And the poverty isn't good for anybody.
But it's not just Latino either. It's
it depresses wages for everybody.
Right. So I agree. Anyway, what is your stance? Do you have a stance? Your the National Association of Latino.
Sure. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, when you talk about immigration reform, you're talking about many, many different aspects of immigration.
It's complicated.
Very hard.
Yeah.
But what we will say, is that we want to make sure that whatever package, whatever is negotiated, comes up with an immigration system that is going to be fair and reasonable.
Fair, reasonable, and as best as it can, because it will never, ever please everybody. As best as it can to hurt the economy right, John? As little as possible, but at least to be somewhat humane about things as well. Right?
There's no organization.
Well, now you have chaos right now. So
okay, right now. So then there needs to be some sort of a way to make it less so. So I guess my question to you is, Laura, do you have any ideas on how to do that? Or does anyone in your organization have an idea?
Well, I mean, we have ideas on certain aspects of it. I wouldn't claim that we're the experts on it, but I will keep it a little bit more broad. Like I said, there are many pieces of it that need to be addressed. Not only,
so true.
At NALEO, we work very closely, for example, with how do we get that? There's almost 9 million legal permanent residents that are eligible to become U.S. citizens that haven't. So we're out there trying to see what we can do to help these people become U.S. citizens and fully participate in the American dream.
What keeps them from doing it? Is there something that keeps them from being a citizen?
Is it our own government red tape?
Well, funny enough, that's pretty funny because I'm actually in Dallas right now with national organizations that are leading the effort to get these people to naturalize. And I just came out of one of the presentations, and the fee continues to be a huge barrier to naturalization, but it's also a lack of information.
What's the fee? Laura, what is the fee?
People don't know where they have to go.
That's interesting. I mean, I understand that. The people come here, they want to become...
Well, how much does it cost?
It's almost $700, $680 just to go through the process.
Right. And
but remember that if you're not able to pass the civics portion or you don't have the English language skills, then if you're not able to pass the test, you lose $680, and then you still have to pay another almost $500 to renew your permanent residence. So it can be risky.
And this is where I think things get lost in translation. I really do, because I think these people are coming over here with the best of intention and they want to become citizens. And then, that $700 is a lot of money to these people. And then they sign up, and you're right, and they're unable to do what is necessary. And there is no help to sort of see them through. And then they lose the money, they lose the incentive, and they don't go back to do it. That's what I mean. Like when she says that there's many different reasons, that's one. And that might not be something that you see as a big reason, but that's something that I understand is. And I really do.
All right, for the ones who are citizens and can vote, you talked about the unengaged voting bloc. Why are they unengaged? When you talk to them, what do they say? Why they don't bother to vote? Why they don't bother to register? What blocks them from getting involved?
Yeah, well, there's many, many different reasons. One of the main ones is that they either don't have enough information and don't feel confident enough in the system. Also, in one of the polls that came out right before the midterm elections, more than 50% of the people polled, Latinos polled, said that they weren't contacted by any political party nor organization to ask for their vote.
That's crazy.
So zero information for more than 50% of the voting age population.
That's nuts.
Groups need to, people need to reach out, because you're right. Sometimes they're intimidated. They feel like they don't know enough. They're afraid, perhaps, that maybe they'll get deported for whatever reason. So they stay, and this is my opinion, just through my observation, just being a reporter out there, and just from what I know, and people that I know, and people I've talked to, I think they become afraid. And I do think she's right. There needs to be something else set up. Now, what that is, I don't know. I'm not a politician.
All right, there's a constant debate on how the Latino vote is going to change presidential politics in the future, and on the whole,
let me tell you something. Not in the future. It already is.
Right. Good point, Laura.
Except for no one's going and reaching out to them.
Okay, but what I don't understand is for example, Hispanics tend to vote much more Democratic than Republican. So why isn't the Democratic Party picking up the phone and calling everybody up?
Exactly.
It would hardly cost anything, and that's what they're shooting for, to change the balance of power in the national elections. How could they not pick up the phone and do this?
Surprising. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Well, I'll clarify something too. I mean, the Latino vote is very much up for grabs. It's in a pre-election 2014 poll we did, nearly 23% of voters reported, Latino voters reported not identifying as Republican or Democrat.
So Trump didn't ruin it for the Republicans. Yeah,
I'm sorry?
So Trump didn't really ruin it for the Republican Party yet, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
well,
still
we have to wait and see. We have to wait and see. Again, the issues that when they start talking about the issues, we're gonna see what Latinos decide.
Laura, you're very smart. You don't lump a particular group of people into one side or the other.
Well, if you go by voting patterns, that's part of the record. But all right, but the question was, why don't they call them up to vote? Because that's so cheap and easy.
For God's sakes, what do you want them to do? Sit there and just pick up the phone and start dialing people? That's
social media.
That's what I would do.
Okay, maybe social media.
I've been knocking on doors. That costs nothing.
Okay, let's get with the modern times. Social media.
Grassroots campaigning.
Grassroots campaigning through social media. No, Laura, that's a great point that Linda made up.
Do you do that in your organization? I know that you're, once things move along and things become a little more clear about who's really representing the Latino community, do you get in there and really, when I brought up earlier about educating the community, do you work on that to try to sway or to inform, I should say is a better word?
Inform.
So you're an important organization for any politician in this race. I mean...
Right. We actually have members from both sides of the aisle as part of our board. So
as you should. But see, as you should. See, that's a smart organization. You need everybody. Right. Because everybody, if you have one common goal, you need everybody to work toward that goal. But, I still like that point that you brought up about the social media. Are you out there on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and, I don't know, Snapchat, or is that just for dating?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Snapchat.
That
would be
dating?
Tinder.
Are you doing like a dating thing? It's like, you can even
We're
find...
out there, and let me tell you something else. In some of the other research that we've done, Latinos are among the highest in the rates of usage of, mobile technology, for example. So cell phones, social media, all those platforms.
So honestly, you are out there. You're on Facebook, correct? You have your own, Facebook page, Instagram. Are you Twittering? Because that's the big thing.
Yeah, the mobile.
Yep.
Yeah, but how do you... You have to find the people to get them to be connected to you on social media.
But let's say
how do you find the database of?
Guess what? When I hang up here, I want to be her friend on social media, and then when she friends me and I friend her, then she gets to be access to my friends.
But most of the voters don't even know she and her organization exist. So how do they become aware of that?
Okay. Well, we do it with several ways. No, I mean, obviously we try to get out as much as we can the phone number that we have that provides assistance, but we also have a website in Spanish and in English that provides information. That website is also linked to a lot of the efforts that we do on naturalizing Latinos and other people who are eligible to become U.S. citizens. So once they become a U.S. citizen, they can go to our website, get more information, use those same resources that help them go through that process to go there. And then through there, it also goes a little bit, word of mouth.
Mm-hmm. Does your organization, do you have a stance on illegal immigration? Or no, you're just bipartisan, you just, you don't really go out there with any opinion one way or another?
Well, right, the latter. So we don't have an answer to what a fair and reasonable immigration system exactly looks like, but we do know generally that we want it to be, that. So, we don't take specific positions. We would have to see on a case by case basis. But fair and reasonable is the main goal here, and we want to work with as many partners as possible whenever there is an immigration package that Congress can consider to get it passed.
Do you sometimes get legal Latino citizens coming to you and saying, you know what, I'm pissed off because I'm legal and some of these guys are coming over and taking the jobs that I really would take? Does that happen sometimes in your community or no? Or are they more supportive of people coming over illegally because they understand why they're coming?
They did it too, right?
I don't know if I'm the best person to answer that because I haven't had such interaction.
Okay. May I ask what your opinion of it is? What do you? I know it's broad. There's a lot of different parts to it, but what's your opinion on what should be done or could be done? Just sort of, or what would you like a candidate to say? What would you like to hear?
I'm not sure. I think at the end of the day, what the main, I guess in terms of immigration reform, I would like to see someone that can really take the helm and pass comprehensive immigration reform. Because like I said, it's not one thing that is keeping the system broken. It's multiple pieces. It's all of it that is broken. So, whoever can come forward and really make that a priority to pass comprehensive immigration reform, I think that we can all, gather behind that.
Is anybody speaking to you right now, in other words, resonating with you like, all right, I kind of like that guy or girl?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we are a bit in the dark on most of the candidates on where they're standing on the issues. We had our conference in Nevada this summer, and we had the pleasure of hosting both Hillary Clinton and Dr. Ben Carson, who both made very good points on some of the issues that they're working on. And but I think it's still a little bit early, and we're going to have to see many of those debates moving forward to see what the stances are and what they're really thinking.
What do you think Trump has done in this entire process so far? I think first of all, he's woken people up, right?
Yeah, that's what I think.
I don't care if you like him or not. He just woke people up. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, we haven't heard much in terms of the issues. So
from him, you mean, or just you're talking from him, or just from anybody?
From any of the candidates, we haven't, other than what you're continuing to see on the media, which we really somewhat want to move on and talk about something else, but.
Right.
We would like to begin hearing a lot more about what their stances are and how they're going to move forward and how they plan to address some of the huge issues that are affecting our community and are keeping Latinos from succeeding.
What are they?
Education,
but then it's
absolutely
so broad, though. I mean, I hear that every election year, but then nothing is ever done.
All right, so if the schools aren't good in some of these neighborhoods, I mean, there's got to be, parents must be saying, here's what has to change. There has to be like a groundswell from the parents or local organizations saying, hey, our schools are bad. Here's why they're bad. can we get this fixed? I mean, do you hear specifically? Because the word education is just so
it's broad.
It doesn't mean anything. What is it specifically that's going wrong?
Well, I mean, we're not the right organization to give you the stance on that. I will tell you that we do here, Latinos, like any other American, wants to make sure that their kids are getting an education of excellence. And there's a number of Latino organizations out there that I encourage you to, that we work with and that I encourage you to take a look at that do have stances and are doing a lot of the research and do have positions on what those changes should be. So I'm not the best person to answer that, but I will tell you, we all want the same thing. Making sure that those kids are getting the best education possible, and that's just not happening right now.
That's happening in LA. I have to say something. Everybody knows I'm looking at high schools, and some of the best schools are in Latino communities. I've researched 10 out of 10 rankings.
You're talking the public schools or the private schools?
Public. So, I mean, that's a bit of good news. I think, at least in LA, there's been some, Granada Hills and Eagle Rock. There are certain areas that those schools are ranking very high, and the SAT scores are above 1,800, which is pretty good for a public school.
Absolutely, it's
and
pretty
those
good.
are in those
right.
communities.
So what's going on in those towns that aren't going on in the other
John,
towns?
sometimes you're so black and white, you never go for what's in the middle. Okay, it's complicated. Just like Laura said it in the beginning, and she's right. There's so many issues involved. I mean, first of all, let's start.
What's one big one?
Your home. It has to start at home, right? You have to believe in this sort of thing at home. Let's just assume that, for the sake of argument, we all do here and Laura. Then you have to go to the local school. Who's running it? How is it run? You have to go to the city, the town, the county, the state. And then from there, the federal government. There's so many branches that have to work together. And if you have one broken branch, then that's where your problem is. And then maybe you can't move forward. Am I right in saying that? I really can see the big picture. I just don't know how to fix it. Am I right in saying that, Laura?
I think it's a lot like the immigration issue, right? These are like you said, huge issues.
There's no organization.
But that's exactly what the role of a president is, to be able to, get elected
and bring it
get
down
to
to
Washington, D.C., negotiate with Congress, and figure out what is that is going to work. And what is doable?
I sometimes wonder, we're doing it all wrong. We should have a president for education. Then we should have a president for roads and a president. How can one guy...
Well, he can't.
But
There's no
can't,
way he can
and
do
I think
that.
That's why.
But there's plenty of people locally who could do it if they cared enough.
Okay, but
if they got up in the morning and did the right thing, I don't think there's a lot of people in government, especially at the local levels, who care.
I think you're completely wrong.
Well, then you wouldn't have a bad school.
No, I just don't believe that. I think people do get into it for the right reasons. I do, and I just think sometimes maybe things get caught up, and then you can't move forward. But I think people do have the right get into it for the right intentions and the right reasons. Why it's not working, I don't know. Maybe there's just too many people. It's too difficult to govern. That's where I don't know. And I step back and I look at people.
John brings up a really good point about
like
the
Laura.
schools. Like the ones that are scoring well, what are they doing right? Why do we always have to complain? Let's look at what they're doing right.
They're doing something different.
Going on there.
The best school out of 100 is doing something dramatically different than the worst school.
Okay,
and
so
you can only look
our
at
lawmakers need to look at that school and figure what are you people doing right? Is it coming from the families, coming from the the teachers that are being hired there, and then emulate that.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this as an example, and somebody like Laura can hold it up as an example and say this is what we need to do. Am I right? These are just my opinions, but I want to know what you think.
Yeah, well, I will tell you that the other piece of the other big piece of who we are here at Naleo, is obviously working with our elected officials, and these are the people that are on the front lines in their communities. Mm-hmm. So these, our members are forced to deal with the day-to-day, reality of some of the most pressing education issues that are facing our nation today. So part of what we do is obviously trying to provide them with as much information and prepare them through institutes that we do in the states so they can go back and legislate according to what is needed in their particular situations, in their particular localities.
Okay, I have to ask. So you've got Rubio, obviously Latino roots, and then you've got Bush with his wife, Latino roots. Does that mean anything to you, or do you think they're just too out of touch?
Again, I'll tell you, just in the past, both of those candidates have come to Naleo conferences to talk to our elected officials.
Yeah.
And we expect them to, whoever the candidate is next year, we expect both of them to be at our annual conference and come and talk to our elected officials. So doesn't matter the nationality, whether they're Latino or not, we expect them to be looking at the Latino community and to come and tell us what it is that they plan to do moving forward.
Well, if I was running, I would be knocking on your door. It sounds like that's the takeaway right now. Just get out there and.
Are you coming out here for the debates for the We're trying to get in there. I think we're going to be there next week, so I'm excited about that, Tony. So,
Tony's our
Tony. I know John's going to be there, and Tony. So I'm really excited about it because I need to be in that room.
Hard to
and
get any
feel
specifics though when you have 11 guys or 10 men and a woman all shouting at each other.
If they put me right in the front, they hear a lot out of me, and not from the other idiots who've been out there asking what I consider sometimes just not very or piercing questions.
Nobody remembers anything from the first debate except Trump and Megyn Kelly. That's the only thing that stood out.
That's pretty.
So whatever else they said just got lost in the wash.
Yeah, that's too bad, isn't it? What do you want to hear? Give me 2 or 3 questions that you want asked at the debate. And if I could stand up somehow and ask a question, which I cannot.
And then she'll be hauled off.
Which I cannot. I'll yell it out
before security takes you out.
We'll have to get her out of jail.
Really, Trump would have me probably hauled out of the room.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I worked with him. I know him somewhat, so who knows. But anyway, so give me 1 or 2 questions that you would like to ask. Any of them.
I don't think there's one specific question. There's just so many that we're going to be paying attention very closely to every debate to see what it is that they're saying on the different issues. And I don't think there's one particular area that is more important than the next. It's just making sure that the Latino community is informed. And like I said, that they're reaching out and to that vote and they're trying to talk to the community and inform them as much as they can.
Probably get specific is what you're looking for. Just something specific on education and so forth. So that would be a good start since we haven't really dove into that yet with these debates.
Is there anybody that you're sort of rooting for secretly, quietly that you could tell us about?
No, not really. I want the best candidate to win. We'll see when that happens. I'm really rooting for the Latino community. What I really want to see is high turnout rates, not only in the elections, because we see more normal than average turnout during presidential, but during the primaries. We really want to make sure that Latinos are informed during the primaries and that we get out that vote.
What's the percentage of Latinos that are coming out to vote? Let's say the last presidential election, I think you handed me something, and I don't remember that number, John.
I think the turnout rate was in the 40%, 48% range.
So it was... I think it was a little bit less than 50%. So.
Yeah, right. And for everybody else, it's in the mid-60s.
So you want to get to that
that's the
level.
Gap between the Latino voters and the rest.
And what about?
But I will tell you, if you look at the numbers,
that's growing.
When we're talking about the Latino vote not being monolithic, George Bush won 44% of George W. won 44% of the Latino vote in 2004.
So it's important to get that vote.
In Obama, in comparison, 67% versus 31%, and Romney only got about 27% of the Latino vote.
Mm-hmm.
So, it does make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you hoping for this time? I mean, I don't know. Wouldn't it be great if they could match it and be somewhere up in the 60s? I mean, if they're just below 50, you guys can do it. I mean, you're starting early enough. You can do it.
I think you will do it this time.
The numbers are going up. Like I said, in the 2016 election, we expect there to be around 28 million eligible Latino voters. So, we have a very tough job ahead of us. But I think, aside from providing information, the road to the White House has to pass through our community. So we're going to be looking very closely and, making sure that whoever wants to get to the White House is doing more than just talking. They're going to need to demonstrate that they are able to deliver on those promises.
You know how you said a lot of times people just aren't getting out? Isn't it also important that you maybe get out into the community and say you can't be afraid? You can't just sit here. You got to get out and do something. Nobody's going to send you back, take you back. I think a lot of people are afraid they're just going to be picked up and taken back from where they came from. Am I right about that?
No, remember, you're talking about people who are eligible to vote. So a lot of these Latinos are born here. They're just coming of age. They're U.S. And then the rest of them are either, been here a very long time. So, these people are just there's different reasons why they're not voting. Trying to figure out strategies, like I said. One of the ones that we've seen work is they like to hear from local community leaders. We are trying to see how we can reach local community leaders to mobilize their communities to go out and vote. But like I said, it's also a matter of the parties and other national organizations that are reaching out and making sure, how do we contact each and every one of those Latinos, ensure that they're registered to vote and that they actually go out on that day and vote. There's also things that, make it easier for Latinos to vote. So in Naleo, we work very closely with elected officials and other groups in trying to find strategies that will facilitate, early voting or different strategies that will help Latinos go out and vote and make it more acceptable.
I'm a big believer in the in social media, and also, I don't know, music. What about getting like musicians out there and music channels? People really pay attention to that. They really do. And we work with Spanish media as well, so, Univision and some of our other partners to do that as well. All right, Laura, it's been great having you on. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Are you heading out to LA anytime soon? Because we'd love to meet with you next time you're out here.
Well, I think I'll be there in December. So we'll
let
see.
us know. We'll put you on the show.
Let us know and keep our number. It'd be fun to have you in the studio. Would you like to come back?
Great.
No,
absolutely.
No, I think she's got a lot of great points, and I really liked hearing from her. And I'd like to meet you. Again, Laura, oh boy.
There you go.
Here we
you
go.
You did it right.
Maristani. Maristani?
There you go.
I got it. Woo!
Thank
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Okay, how come every time I let somebody go, I think of a question to ask them? It happens all the time. This is what happens at home. I'm like, I'll call John. I'll say,
scribble it down.
I wanted to know her background.
I think it's interesting that it's up for grabs.
Well, clearly she's not from Ireland, so I guess,
Yeah, it's a safe assumption.
Yeah, and she obviously is very passionate about this. I understand a little of this. And by the way, I just have to interrupt myself. We're supposed to be having somebody call in from the LA Times. What happened to her? Misty, if you're listening, if there's any way you can call her and get her on the phone, that'd be great. But in the meantime, we'll just wing it. Three people who talk too much anyway. We can figure it out.
I don't think we'll have a problem.
No, but I just remember you cannot compare the Italian community that I came from back east because it's much smaller. Oh, she's on the phone. All right.
Great.
But I remember even back then, hang on one second. I remember even then my parents always feeling less than. And so many of my relatives who just felt that they couldn't even go out and have a voice and speak. And this was from my own relatives back east. So I can't imagine with such an enormous community of people who are here legally, and then of course the ones who are here not legally. Mm-hmm. It's just a big issue. Anyway, so okay, thank you. Who do we have here? Now I have to switch gears here for a minute.
Seema Mehta.
Seema's here from the
Hi,
LA
how are you?
Times.
Apologies about the delay.
Thank you so much for calling in.
Were you waiting for us? Because we weren't sure if you were on the line or not.
I think she just called.
I'm sorry. I was on deadline on a story, and I'm totally late. Apologies.
Well, the heck with your deadline. We have some of our own, too. What are you writing about? What's your article?
I'm writing about Governor Jeb Bush's tax proposal that he rolled out today.
Yeah, and what is it? Why don't you tell some of our listeners?
Sure. He's calling for reducing the number of federal income tax brackets from 7 to 3, and he would reduce the top bracket to 28%. He's calling for reducing corporate taxes from 35% to 20%. He's calling for getting rid of the estate tax, getting rid of the marriage penalty, expanding the standard deduction, expanding the earned income tax credit. It's pretty detailed, so there's a lot of stuff to work through, but it's interesting.
Sounds like a huge tax cut.
Yeah.
But I think that, and Democrats would certainly argue that it is a tax cut for the wealthy and corporations. Governor Bush would argue that that by reducing these taxes in certain ways that we can spur economic growth in this country, increase the growth rate to 4%, create 19 million new jobs.
Well, what's your take on it?
I'm still trying to figure that out because it's a lot to work through. So I've been doing a lot of reading and talking to a number of experts from around the country.
Yeah. Have you've been following the presidential election, correct?
Obviously.
I have. Right, quite
As
a bit.
Political writer.
Of course. So, but I'd like to, are you going to the debates next week?
I am, yes.
Yeah. So what's your take? I got to ask, what's your take on what's going on with Trump, on how he's shaking everything up? I know everybody thinks he's a bit of an idiot, but, and that's not my opinion, by the way. It's just a lot of people are just, Trump. But I want your opinion on how you think he has shaken up the party. And
I mean, he certainly has shaken up the race. I think far more than anybody who has covered politics or who watches politics would have expected. I mean, I think most people expected him to sort of have his moment in the sun over the summer and then to fade out. We saw that with so many candidates in 2012. We saw it with Michelle Bachmann, with Herman Cain, with Newt Gingrich. Where you had these people who were like the front runner for a week and then they'd sort of fade away. And I think a lot of people thought that would apply to Donald Trump, but it hasn't. And he's affected the debate process. He's the front runner in polls both nationally and in the early states in Iowa and in New Hampshire. And I think he's sort of riding. He, as well as like Ben Carson and Carly Fiorina, are sort of riding this like populist wave among voters who are just really sick and tired of D.C. and the status quo.
How did all the reporters and experts miss how angry the public is? Because it's going on the Democratic side too. You never would have expected Bernie Sanders to be ahead of Hillary Clinton the way he is in some states. So clearly this has been brewing a long time, and everybody in the Washington bubble missed it.
Right. I mean, I think that often happens where if you have something that's brewing on the ground, in the middle of the country, and I'm not going to necessarily hear it in Los Angeles, or reporters in DC are not going to necessarily hear it there. It's something that that it's really coming from the grassroots. It's not a top-down driven movement.
I think Trump sort of ignited the fire, though. I mean, by coming out and being so blatantly honest. I think people are like, oh, wait, I may not agree, but I like that he's so honest, and I think people are wanting to hear more of that side.
Well, look, let's face it. It's not a given, no matter which side you're on, that just because you've been in politics for all these years, that something's going to be handed to you. I don't care if it's Hillary or I don't care if it's Bush.
But people they're tired of the conventional way. Clearly, they're exhausted and they hate the whole process and they hate.
But I think we should also remember that it's September, and so we're really just getting started. So I think even people who are going to support either Donald Sanders, they're not casting their ballots today, and it's a different question when people ask you, who do you want to go to the prom with versus who do you want to marry, and you look for different qualities, in both cases. So when it comes to time in February, when you're worried about who's the most electable candidate, I think that the answer might be a little bit different.
Well, I kind of like my prom date. Actually.
Yeah, well, but if their feelings are real, it may not be different. I mean, it may not. So
you know what? I just have to say, wait a minute. I think this time it's a little different because a lot of times in previous election years, it didn't quite have this passion and energy attached to it this early on. I think this is growing. Again, it will filter out, but I just think it's gotten more people to wake up. They're interested in what's going on. Mm-hmm. And again, these guys may be filtered out, maybe not. I mean, who knows? Nobody can really predict what's going to happen. Right. And if that's the case, like you said, John, these guys are in a bubble, which always pisses me off because I'm thinking, get the frick out of your bubble and see what somebody like I'm feeling or anybody else is feeling. Well, and for once that's happened, even if it took somebody like him.
When I talk to people, I notice that they range from disappointed to disgusted with both presidents of the last 16 years. That it's not been a fun 16 years for the country. From
I don't know who you're talking to because a lot of people I'm talking to are not saying that. I know I personally don't feel that way about Obama. I don't.
Well, a lot of people do. Mm-hmm. Even on the Democratic side, this has not been the greatest 10 to 15 years in America's history. It depends upon what you're looking at. It depends upon what you're looking at. Well, I think we'll just look at the polls. I mean, look who's popular in the polls right now. Clearly, most people are upset with what's going on.
What about Carly? What is she taking?
It's fascinating. I mean, I covered her during her 2010 Senate run in California, and she's going to face scrutiny unlike she has really faced until this point. Because back in the summer when she was getting like a 1% or 0% in the polls, nobody was really paying attention to her. Her Republican rivals were praising her. I think in the last debate, Rick Perry said, we should have Carly Fiorina negotiating the agreement with Iran, not John Kerry. But now that she's rising in the polls, she's made the main debate stage at CNN at the CNN debate next week at the Reagan Library. And going forward, if she continues to rise, she's going to threaten to kick one of these guys off the main debate stage, and I think that's going to change.
So why is she rising? What do people like about her? Since she's
always been great on the stump. Even her rivals, I wrote a story earlier this summer about her 2010 Senate run, and even people who worked for Senator Barbara Boxer, who Carly was running against, they don't agree with her about a thing. However, they admire her ability on the stump. She's very good with retail politics. She's very good at connecting with voters. She's good. She was also good. She was the chair of HP at communicating. She's a dynamic presence on the stage.
Although she got ousted but it's unclear. Like I don't really tried to read up on that, and I don't understand. I guess she lost shareholders 50% of their stake, and I don't know what.
And I mean, she would argue that it was during the tech bubble and that she had to make tough decisions, but she offshored jobs. She saw massive job losses. She engineered this takeover compact that was very controversial, and she did not play well with the board, and they ousted her.
Right, and it was a shock to her. It was a shock. So you got to wonder really what happened there. Kind of interesting to me,
But those candidates at the top, like Trump and Carson and Fiorina, they're so colorful. They're all such great communicators. It makes all the traditional guys look really bland and just bags of oatmeal. They're just really boring.
Bags of oatmeal.
And so I'm trying to imagine. So which of the bags of oatmeal is suddenly going to catch fire and change people's perceptions? Because they really are just washed out.
Which flavor of oatmeal?
I'm not classifying anybody as a bag of oatmeal, but I think it's been interesting to watch John Kasich in New Hampshire because he is certainly rising there. I think he's number 2 in the polls, and he's ahead of Bush in New Hampshire, and that's sort of a must-win state for Governor Bush.
He's the best out of the group. He's actually has personality.
He's
and
Ohio
really
boy.
is very, very clearly, he can very clearly communicate with people.
When we were watching the debates, what did I say? I said, if anybody speaks to me even a little bit from all these guys, it was him. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. But I really want to hear from Carly. I think she's going to get a bump. She's smart. She knows what she's
very
doing.
Smart.
I don't think anybody's really going to attack her up there.
Right.
I just don't. And
Well, I think Donald Trump will because he already has, and he attacks pretty much everybody. But it's going to be a different challenge for her because the last time around she was on stage with a bunch of candidates who are certainly lower tier candidates who don't have her communication skills, and she was really able to stand out. And on this stage, she's going to be on the stage with Donald Trump, which changes the game entirely. And then Governor Bush, I think people viewed his performance last time around as lackluster. He needs to do something to shake it up. I think a number of them feel like they need to do something to shake it up. So I think it's going to be a more competitive environment there's more pressure.
For a lot of those guys, it's their last chance because if you're sitting at 2% after you've been running for some of these guys have been running for 5 years and you're at 2%.
Absolutely.
If you don't make an impression next Wednesday, you're never going to.
Well, it's going to be fascinating.
And the stakes are definitely higher.
They're all going to be trying to get the limelight.
It's a different game now. I mean, it's always been a little about, people have to like you. You have to resonate with them. And if that's not going to happen, especially in this field, you're out. And I just don't know if Bush has that enough. I mean, he's clearly competent. He's a party guy. But I don't know if he can really.
He can't. It's not in his. If somebody has to show personality to win, he's not going to win. He doesn't have it.
I don't know if it's even personality. You just have to show that you're
sincere,
compassionate.
I mean, I think what he has going for him. I mean, he's obviously not doing what his supporters thought he would be doing in the polls. I mean, he's clearly not living up to expectations. That said, he and the super PAC backing him have over $100 million. And not that money's everything in politics, and money is a lot in politics. And I think most of the candidates, even perhaps some that are doing better than he is, would trade that for this earliest stage in the race, would trade having over $100 million in the bank. Because I mean, so much of this is won on TV. It's not all of it, but a lot of it is. Whether it's propping up your candidacy or going after your rivals.
Well, and like you said, it's still early, and that money in his back pocket is going to really pay off.
Yeah, but if it's a bad product, it doesn't matter how much money you have to market
it. That's the question. That's the question. I mean, you can't fix a bad campaign, but if you have a decent campaign with perhaps some problem spots that you can work on and over $100 million, I mean, that $100 million can go a long way.
Where's the base? Where have they been?
I'm sorry?
The base. The Republican base, what happened to them? I guess they've been shut down or shut up or something.
I think some of them ran to Trump.
Quietly.
Yeah,
I think you're right about that.
And I think the religious component ran to Ben Carson.
Well, there's so many options for like evangelical voters in states like Iowa and South Carolina. You have Ben Carson, you have Rick Santorum, you have Mike Huckabee. Scott Walker was trying to move into that space. I mean, and Rick Perry had some appeal to that space, although his campaign is completely blown up. But I think some conservative religious leaders in those states were worried about their voters being splintered because there were so many options.
Interesting. So where are you going to be next week? Where will we see you?
I will be at the Reagan Library on Wednesday night.
Right, but I mean, you're just going to be in the room with all the reporters writing your story up, or are you going to be out in the audience? Where are you? So we're going to.
I think I'll be writing about the event, and I'll be in the spin room, and just trying to figure out what we're doing next after that. And then we have the California Republican Party convention coming up the weekend after, and Scott Walker and Mike Huckabee are speaking there, and a number of the candidates who often come to California to fundraise are of course using this trip for the debate as an opportunity to hold some fundraisers because while our votes really don't matter in the primary process, our dollars certainly do.
Well, you're in your busy time, your season, right? As a political reporter, this is it.
Absolutely.
This is it.
Oh, very exciting. We have your picture up. You're a beautiful woman.
Hopefully,
too.
we'll get to meet you in person soon.
Absolutely. Hopefully, we'll meet you next year. Not next year. Next week. So
that would be great.
If we get
not
in.
next year, next week. So hopefully, we'll see you there. And thanks for coming on. And John, thanks for being here. I know you have your own show to do in an hour. So it was fun. Hong, my dear friend Hong, is just sitting here listening in the studio. And Linda, this is fun, right?
We really learned a lot. Thanks so much for coming in and talking to us.
Thanks. And we'll see everybody again next week to another edition of
Great.
Shut Up.
Thank you for having me.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Fascinating.
Yeah, it's fun.